Hello guys, welcome to another session. In this session, we are going to look into object-oriented programming concepts. This session is not limited to Python programming. This can be applicable to any of the programming language which supports object-oriented programming. So let's look into the topics which we are going to cover in this session. So basically, we are going to look into the class, objects, and then we will look into the pillars of object-oriented programming, like abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. So before understanding these jargons, let's understand a scenario where I want to represent a real world thing into computer programming. Suppose that if I have a car and I want to represent into programming language, so how do I represent it? So in object oriented programming language, we can represent a real world thing as class and object. So let's understand the difference between class and the object first. So basically a class is a template which we can use to create an object. So let's understand with a diagram. So in this diagram we are representing a real world example called car as a class. So here I will ask some questions to you. How do you define a car? Or say what thing makes a car is a car? Correct. A car has some properties and some behavior which makes a car as a car. Like car has 4 wheels, a steering size, 4 doors, and some other behaviors as well. So to define all these properties and behavior within programming language, we need a mechanism by which we can define this thing. So this thing will be provided by a term called class, which can be used to create the template. And once we define the template, we will create the object of that particular template, or say the instance of that particular class is called objects. For example, if we want to represent this diagram in a programming language, so how do we can write it? So let's jump into the spider editor. I will show you how this diagram is being represented within programming so that you will better understand it. So let's jump into the spider editor. So now I'm going to write some of the code. If you don't understand, no worries. We are going to discuss all those things in the upcoming session. Just for understanding purpose, I am writing this code for you so that you will understand that how a real world object can be represented within programming language, so that you can get a better idea about what is classes is, what is object is, how we can create class, how we can create objects. So all these things I wanted to explain with this example, and once you are feeling comfortable with that, then it would be really easy for you in the upcoming sessions where I am going to discuss about all these things in details. So let's write the code. So here we will use class keyword to create the template car. So here we are creating class. Now we are going to use, if you are not understanding, that's fine. We are going to init function, that is really important, to initialize the values which we want to pass at the time of creation of an object. So here we will tell that self, and we want to pass initialize the value year when the car is being built, and when, which is the make, which car it is. Only these two things I want to represent it for an example purpose. So here I will tell that the make of the car is pass the year which is being initialized over here, and then I will also initialize the make when it was make. So these are the what it is, these are the properties which we are initializing. So to represent it, I am just creating a class template, and when we will instantiate with this class, when we will create the object, then we will pass the value of year and make. So suppose that this is the class we have created. Now we have created the template, we will create the object of this template. So to create it, what we need to write? We need to write, for example, beetle car we are going to create, and we will call the car and the year and make. For example, we will pass 20 and 19, and When is the make is? The make is, it was made in 2019 and name of the car is Beetle. So look into the diagram, what other car is? Mini and Polo. So let's create it. It is Beetle. Another car is Mini and Polo. So here Mini, Polo. So this is the way we have created a car class template. With the help of class keyword, we have created a template called car, and after that we are creating the object of that particular template. So now run it, select all and shift enter, and if you will look into that, then you will find that it is a type of car class. So this is the way we can create the class and the object. So class is nothing but a template, and on the basis of this template we can create the object. So this is what I wanted to represent over here. And if you look into the diagram, so we have converted this diagram into a programming language. So how do we have represented the real world thing? With the help of this class template and with the help of the objects which is being instantiated from this class template. If you are not understanding all these things, that is perfectly fine, because we are going to discuss all these things in the upcoming session. So how to create classes, what is class keyword, in the upcoming session. But for a time being, just consider that class is nothing but a template which we can use to create objects. So on this note, we are moving further and look into the pillars of object oriented programming. So let's jump into that. Now we will look into the what is abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance and polymorphism. Now let's look into the pillars of object oriented programming. So let's jump into a diagram to understand it better. But prior to that, let's look into the definition first. We will discuss about abstraction first. So basically, abstraction is referred to providing only the essential information to the outside world and hiding their background details. So what does it mean? We will look into with the help of example. So here we will look into the example. So we are talking about abstraction. So what does abstraction means? So it is telling that hiding the unwanted details and providing only the essential information. So what does it mean? Let's understand it. So basically, suppose that if you are a user and using your phone, you are using some of the functionality like home button. When you are clicking a home button, you are going to your home of the screen. But what is happening internally? What are the function being called? Suppose if you are clicking on volume button, then volume is getting increasing, but how it is increasing behind the scene with the help of a function, what are the system calls happening behind the scene, you are not aware about. So that means it is hiding the unnecessary detail and showing only whatever the required information and whatever the information you want, and you are using it. So this is what abstraction is all about. So let's jump into the another pillar called encapsulation and understand the definition first. So here, encapsulation is a process of binding data members, variable properties and member function methods into a single unit. It also a way of restricting access to certain properties or components. So let's understand it now. So let's jump into the diagram again. So basically here we have created the car class, and there we have certain properties and certain method which we haven't implemented, but in this diagram I am representing that, where we have method called refuel, get fuel, set speed. So these are the details, these are the methods and these are the attributes which actually represent a car. So by definition, what it is telling that encapsulation is a process to bind the methods and the properties. These are the methods and the properties into a single unit, that is called car, which is encapsulated within a car class. So what it means that we are not bothered about what the method inside of this car class, what is the attribute it has. We are bothered only about the car. So that means if we want to use this attribute, we first need to create the object of this car class and then we will call this property. And one more thing, Some of the property of encapsulated class is not accessible if it is defined as private access modifier. So access modifier we will discuss in further session. So on that time you will come to know that what is access modifiers are. So just consider that it is one of the way by which we can restrict some of the methods, and we can allow some of the method to be available, method and properties to be available outside world. So now we understand that encapsulation. Let's move further and look into other pillar, that is called inheritance. So let's look into definition first, then we will understand it. So inheritance is the ability to create a new class from an existing class is called inheritance. So let's understand it, what it means. So let's look into this diagram. So here we are representing two classes. One is called animal, another one is called dog. So basically dog is an animal, and animal is a parent class for dog, and dog is a subclass of animal. So that means it has inherited some of the properties of animal, like animal has four legs, so it has inherited that properties. But dog has their own property, like dog can bark, but not all animal can bark. So this property, or say this behavior, is belongs to only dog class, but it has inherited some of the property of the animal, which makes an animal as an animal. Like every animal has four legs, so it has inherited that properties. So how to create inheritance in Python, we will look further in the upcoming session. So for a time being, you just consider that inheritance is one of the pillar by which we can use existing class to create new class, where existing class behavior can be induced into the inherited class. Now we understand the inheritance. Let's move further and look into the other pillar, that is called polymorphism. So what is the polymorphism? So let's look into the definition first, and then we will jump into the discussion. So what is polymorphism? So polymorphism means that have many forms. That means polymorphism occur when there is a hierarchy of class and they are related by inheritance. We have discussed about inheritance now. Now we will understand that how polymorphism comes into picture. So let's look into the diagram. We are taking the same example. Earlier we have seen that a dog is inheriting some of the properties of animals, and which has some of his own property which doesn't belongs to every animals, like bark. But dog has some of the property which is available in other animal, but there is certain differences within the behavior, like move. For example, how does a kangaroo move? But the way how kangaroo move and the way dog moves is very different. So that means this has a form, and move is varying from animal to animal. So here it comes to the definition. So what is the definition of polymorphism? That has many forms. So this move will vary for dog, and this move vary for kangaroo. So this move is having many forms, and that will vary from animal to animal. So this is what polymorphism is. So this is what I wanted to show you in this session. Any of the concept you are not clear about, you can drop your question to my Twitter handle. I will help you to make you understand with more examples. But I am pretty much sure that once we will finish this course, you must be comfortable with all these jargons and all these concepts. So on this note, I am closing the session, and see you in the next session. Bye bye.